So, my friend, I want to ask you, have you been listening to some of my podcasts for a while and identified for yourself all the areas that you feel your business could be better in? Maybe you just are so busy you haven't yet mastered the working as much as you like bit. Or maybe you're just not bringing in the money, like you're struggling with the income, or it's just not enough. Well, it's time for us to have a conversation. In the show notes, there is a link to my evolution call. If you're a dance boss and you are ready to take action, let's have a chat and let's see where I can take you. Hello and welcome, lovelies, to the Ultimate Dance Business Podcast. My name is Deborah Laws, the dance business expert. My passion is to help you turn your passion into profit while guiding you to work less and earn more. I'm super excited to share interviews with you that I know will inspire and motivate you in your schools, as well as my solo shows where I shall be sharing some great tips and strategies. So if you love the show, please do remember to review, subscribe, and share it with your fellow dance boss friends. So let's get stuck into the business of dance. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am really excited. We are going to be chatting to the wonderful Will Polston, and he has got a lot in common with myself in terms of some of the kind of the mindset, slightly more philosophical, spiritual side of things in life. And these are conversations I don't often have with people, especially when we're talking mostly around business. So, Will, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. Grateful to be here.
Now, would you mind just letting everybody know, who are you and what do you do?
Absolutely. So, my name's Will Polston, and I help high-performing entrepreneurs live their dream life faster and unlock their full potential by mastering their mindset, essentially.
Yeah, great. And so in terms of how that works specifically when you're working with clients, like, do you have like a membership? Is it one-on-one? What does your kind of business model look like as such?
Absolutely. So I have yes to all the above. So I do one-on-one. I have an in-person a couple of different in-person mastermind groups. I have an online coaching group, and I have an online academy. So they're the paid services. And then I have a couple of other communities, in-person communities and online communities that are other groups that I have.
Brilliant. And if I'm right in thinking you've got a podcast as well, haven't you?
I do indeed, yeah. It was originally called Make It Happen with Will Polston, and then this year we rebranded to North Star Conversations with Will Polston.
And that's the segue. That's the segue I was after right there.
Teed that one up lovely. There we go. Look at that.
Because finding your North Star, like this gives me goosebumps having this conversation. It's something I do a lot with my clients when we're kind of doing in-person retreats and when we're in that place where we can work on, more of this kind of thing. But for those that are listening thinking, what on earth are these two talking about? Like, how would you describe what a North Star is? Like, what is a North Star?
A North Star is a mission in life that's the equivalent of trying to empty the sea with a spoon. It's something you're never going to achieve. It's something you're never going to get to as a destination, which is where a lot of people think their North Star is their 3-year goal or their 10-year goal or their 20-year goal. Whereas I think of it from a different perspective. And there's a reason which we can absolutely go into as to why it's that nuanced. But yeah, that's essentially what it is. It's a life mission that you accept you're never going to achieve, because nobody's emptying the sea with a spoon, are they? You accept you're never going to achieve it, but every single day you work towards it.
Amazing. And so how do you find your North Star?
Well, that's the first thing. So I don't believe you find it. in the same way that people talk about their purpose. I really want to find my purpose. I don't believe you find your purpose. I don't believe you find your North Star. I believe you create it. And there's a few different ways of being able to create it. Typically, there's 4 ways that I help people do it, and some ways are easier for others, and some people are more appropriate for others. It depends who I'm dealing with. So if we start with the first way, so there's a really powerful process. There's a Japanese concept called an ikigai. We don't have a direct translation for it here in English, but it as one word at least. But it means a reason for being. And an ikigai is fascinating for a couple of different reasons. So one of the reasons that I absolutely love it, before I explain what it is that the people that live by this concept are people that live. Where it was born from. So it's born from a tiny little island that just comes off of Japan called Okinawa. And they have more centurions and more people that live to over 100 years old than anywhere else on the planet. And they live by the concept of the ikigai. So all other things being equal, food, diet, exercise, etc., it's having this reason for being, which is why I believe in having it as one of the reasons why it's so important. But essentially what it is, if you imagine a Venn diagram, so 4 circles, one at the top, one east, west, and one in the south, that all overlap in the middle. And the overlap in the middle is what the ikigai are. But the 4 different circles, if you like, in to use this Venn diagram, is what do you love doing? So what do you absolutely love? What are you good at? What does the world need? So what's a problem that you believe that needs to be solved, and what can you be paid for? Because when you have all 4 of those, it becomes sustainable. It's something you can continue to go and do, and it becomes really powerful. So one of the ways that people can help get clear on their North Star is by doing that as an exercise. If they do it well enough, detailed enough, they can look at the cross sections and they can see where it is. So that's one of the ways. One of the other ways is by identifying what I call their means values. So a value is essentially a priority, something that's really important to us. But a means value is something that you do. So a lot of people, when they think of values, they think of social idealisms like integrity, honesty, trust, which are not really, they're not values. A means value is something that you do that gives you fulfillment when you do that thing. It's something that's a real priority. It's something you're just spontaneously inspired to do. So by getting clear on your values, there's the best process that I've ever come across in terms of being able to get clear on your values is something called the DeMartini values determination process. It's 13 questions. But my short version of it, that's not even 13 questions, is using an acronym called STEM. So what do you fill your space with, your time with, what energizes you, and where do you spend your money? Will give you a clue as to what your values are, your means values. Another way that we do it is by looking back on people's past, and we do a correlation with their lowest lows emotionally and their highest highs, because it's our lowest lows and our highest highs that are typically got a correlation, which is where mine essentially came from, albeit I didn't do it as a logical process. I sort of stumbled across it, if you like. And the other way is that people already kind of have an idea of it. They've just got a really clear vision of what their future looks like, and we unpack it from what they want their future to look like at some point further down the line. So yeah, that's they're the 4 different ways of creating it.
That's so interesting, Will, because I kind of always gone with the concept that your North Star is something that you're born with, like you're put here on the planet to do. It's like it's like a blueprint that was kind of already created for us or thought through for us before we arrived. But it's really interesting to see how you feel like this is something we can also create, or maybe it's a mixture of the two. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, this is where we could really go down the rabbit hole. I mean, you mentioned spirituality and stuff when we were speaking before we went live. And this is where you can really go down a rabbit hole as what is actual, what do we really, when do we really make decisions? What do we make decisions over, and what's fate? So I don't know if you ever watched the film or read the book, The Celestine Prophecy, and you look at these types of things and you go, well, did this happen because of this, or did this happen, like sliding doors, that whole side of things. Whereas what I can definitely do with certainty is, if people have something they're really inspired to do, something that's really powerful for them, I can connect the dots backwards and see where that came from. Now, the argument that we're never going to know is, was that predetermined by fate, or did we have some influence over it? That's something that we're not really. I is a question I don't think I'll ever be able to answer. But what I can certainly help people do is if they don't have clarity on what that is, I can help them uncover it, and that's really about as far as I think I can take it.
Yeah, and I love that, because at the end of the day, even if you do happen to believe that we're put here to do something, whether you have clarity of that once you're here is another whole story. And how do you know what to do with it, even if you have this niggling, I think I'm meant to be doing this? And that's what I love about what you do, because you help people to get that clarity and then work with that, presumably.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, just to use a contextual example here for everyone that's listening. So I know you do a phenomenal job at helping people with their dance businesses, and you help them grow and develop. And one of the things that I remember growing up was I played ice hockey, and at 8 years old, I started playing ice hockey. As I got a little bit older, and this sort of links all into the backstory, which we've not even gone into yet, was that I wanted to be a professional ice hockey player like some of my other best mates. The difference was ice hockey is an expensive sport. It really is an expensive sport. I'm one of four. I'm the oldest of four. And when I was a kid, when I was sort of 12, 13, some of my two best friends and a bunch of other friends, their parents were able to afford for them to go on lots of different training camps, whether it's in the UK or overseas, and they got better and better and better. And I wasn't in that position. As a result, one of them went on to play professional ice hockey. I didn't. The other one did travel around the world playing, and then sort of stopped at semi-pro. But one of my longer term goals now is I want to acquire my local ice hockey club. I want to build a 6,000 seat ice arena. I want to reinvest all the profits back into the junior academy. And here in the UK, we have a bit like in football. You know, you've got different leagues, and the top league in the UK is something called the Elite League, which is like the equivalent of the Premiership, which Manchester United and whatnot play in. And I want to win the Elite League playoffs, which is like the best thing that you could win, with more homegrown players, so players that started as juniors playing for Chelmsford and then went on to play in the senior team, than any other club in history. Now, the reason for that is because when I was 12, 13, I really wanted to be a professional ice hockey player, but there wasn't a roadmap for me to be able to do it. But I want to be able to go back and do that. So that's just one example of a perception of a void that I had growing up that is now driving something that I want to do in the future. Was that predetermined at birth? I don't know, you know, or prior to birth, I don't know. But it's something that I certainly know that I want to do now.
Yeah, amazing. And I think actually a lot of my listeners can kind of appreciate that, because for some of them, they've also been dancing since they were, 2 or 3. Some of them, I started at 2.5. And so the passion kind of grew over the years. But for some people, what they're doing now is still very much linked back to that original passion, purpose that they felt when they were younger. So it's really interesting to hear you talking about that and how you feel so aligned with wanting to create something better now for those kids for the future. Is it possible that we have more than one North Star, Will?
Good question. So the answer I would typically say is no, because we have one overarching mission, and that could be sort of quite broad, but then there's milestones within it. So I think like my North Star is to empower people to transform excuses into results and live a life they love. So the 12-year-old kid right now that says, I want to be a professional ice hockey player, but that my parents say, I can't do it, or I don't want to do it. I want to be able to give them and empower them with the different thinking and knowledge and actions and resources to be able to live out their dream life, whatever that looks like. So that stays the same. Can that evolve? Absolutely. Without a doubt, that can evolve. But what we also do is we have this one overarching mission that everything folds into, but then we have what I call a trajectory, so a North Star trajectory. So I still have big goals. You know, one of my big goals, and this is maybe where I lose people because they're like, who is this guy, Deb, that you have got on the podcast that's absolutely not. So I plan on living till I'm 150 years old. I plan on going to Mars. I'm going to space by the end of the decade. Like there's a bunch of stuff that I've got as key milestones that I want to do and just have as cool experiences. So yes, I've got goals for in 120 years time and goals for in 30 years and 20 years and 10 years. So I still have goals, but they're not the North Star. They're goals on the trajectory that I work towards. But the goals that are set, the golden theme that's woven within them all is still that overarching North Star life mission.
Yeah. Amazing. And I still have my jaw on the floor at some of your goals that you've got for the future. But equally, I love them, because do you feel that when you've got that clarity, when you know what that North Star is, that it really helps you to think bigger and achieve more in life?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It does. And I think so many of us are limited in our thinking because of what we've been brought up with, right? And I talk about the two different types of people: the see it to believe it people, and there's believe it to see it people. So there's the majority of people are believe it to see it people. When I've seen that X, Y, and Z people have done something, then I believe that becomes possible for myself. And there's other people that go, I believe this is possible, I'm just going to go and do it anyway. So the cliche example is Roger Bannister back in 1954, if I remember correctly. He wanted to run a 4-minute mile. He visualized it. He embodied it. He went out. He practiced, and he ended up doing it. Everybody said it was impossible, but the year that he did it, I believe I'm right in saying something like 300 other people did it that year, but they've done it because he's now broken the barrier. And there's things that people do in their life, like when they're truly aligned with their values and they're living congruently with their values. It's not about, they don't get caught up in the how, or if somebody else is they just have this inner knowing it's happening. Like it's already done. It's done in the future. And this is, again, we could go on so many different places on this podcast today, but talking about, like, the future doesn't exist. The past doesn't exist. All that exists is now. So if you make the decision, something's done, it's done now. And we're just spending the next bit of time putting all the pieces together. And that's the thing that I think is super fascinating.
I love that. And I love the way that you said that, actually, because in my offices, I'm here on the first floor. And as I walk down the stairs, I've got a plaque above the stairs that I look at every time I walk down the stairs. And it's the saying, which we've all heard before, it's not new. She believed she could, so she did. I've even got it printed on my credit card. Because I think I am one of those people that thinks, if I can see it and I want it, then I just find a way of doing it. But, we're all different, aren't we? And some people, like you say, need to see that proof first. Do you think that comes down to, I mean, gosh, my head's just going in a million directions right now. Do you think that comes down to our belief system? Because, for example, I'm quite a spiritual person. My husband is a scientific brain. He's got to see it to believe it. Do you think that it is part of those kind of, well, if it can't be proved, then it's probably not a thing? Like, is it down to beliefs, our own personal beliefs, do you think?
Whenever I get asked questions like this, the first thing I go to do is try and disprove the thing I'm about to say and try and see if there's a way of coming up with it. So what I do think is that beliefs play a massive role in it? Without a doubt. Without a doubt. And there's different levels of beliefs, right? So Tony Robbins talks about global beliefs and rules, and there's certain global beliefs that we have that really influence what we do. And in neurolinguistic programming, in NLP, there's a model by Robert Dilts called neurological levels of change, which is basically like a triangle, if you like, of different things that influence behavior change. And when I'm working with clients, I'm trying to get them the result they want in the fastest possible time. So when I'm doing that work, I go for the jugular. What's the thing that's going to really make the difference? And the thing that makes the difference in the majority of instances is, first of all, someone's North Star. And then what's determined by that is their identity, because your identity is your strongest form of belief. So in the neurological levels of change, it goes what Robert Dilts called purpose, I would call a North Star, then identity, values and beliefs, skills and capabilities, behavior and environment. And most people try and make a change at behavior level, and they wonder why it doesn't work. So for example, we're getting close to the end of the year. It won't be long where everyone's saying, new year, new me. I'm going to the gym 6 times a week this year. They're trying to change behavior level, but they haven't changed things further upstream that will make an easier decision. So you using the example that you did, like, literally the words you use, I am quite a spiritual person. The two most powerful words in the English language are I am a spiritual person. Your husband, on the other hand, I am a scientist. Well, what does it mean to be a scientist? Well, it means that you can't agree with something until it's been proven. You can't do it. So if we change his identity, for example, by relabeling it, then he'd potentially be more open to doing it. So in answer to your question, yes, beliefs have a factor. without a doubt. But if we go a level higher than that, then it's a lot of the time the identity. So a lot of your students, no doubt. I had this conversation with a woman. She's been in business 25 years here in Essex. She's got one of the most successful solicitor practices. She's got over 50 solicitors that work for her. Fantastic woman. She's still identified as a solicitor. So what she did in her day to day was very different to, I am the owner of a solicitor's of a law firm, and just she made that one shift, and the difference that made in 2 months versus 20 years of just having that one shift was huge.
I am smiling from ear to ear. If anyone's watching this on the YouTube, you'll see, because, well, you've literally just identified my top kind of pain point with my beautiful clients, because when you ask them what they did, the first thing they say is, I'm a dance teacher, not I run a business, or I'm a business owner, or I'm the principal of a dance school. Like, they still identify with the dance teacher, which is, of course, where they started. You know, most people are that first before they go on to either start a school or take over somebody else's school. But that's not the identity of who they are now. So would you say that they are stuck in an old identity and they haven't grown into a new one?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And the other key here as well, and you just touched on it, is what got you started is amazing, but what got you to where you are isn't necessarily going to get you to where you're going. And that's where we make these shifts. And that in itself is sometimes the hardest part. It's easy to change something when it's not working. But when it is working and has worked, you go, but this is working. Yeah, it's worked until now. But we're now looking to go to the next level. And that's the bit that I love, because you've seen this, you do this work, Deb, where all of a sudden you see people that have that light bulb moment and the whites of their eyes just go, oh my, now I get it. It's so simple. I've never thought of it like that. But like lots of this stuff, it's common sense. It's just not necessarily common practice. But you don't know what you don't know.
So I thought I would just share with you guys today the planners that I have produced for dance school owners, because these are flying out of Amazon like hotcakes. And if you don't have yours yet, then all you have to do is pop to Amazon and type into the search Deborah Laws, and all 3 books will come up. So the ultimate dance business planner I designed for you so that you had a little bit of a Deborah on your desktop. The planners are full of business training, tips, motivational quotes, things to do at the start of the month, things to do at the end of the month, ways in which you can plan out your marketing and your retention, and they are selling all over the world. So go to Amazon, grab your #1 best-selling Ultimate Dance Business Planner, and enjoy mapping out the growth for your studio. 100%. And something that people are sick and tired of hearing me say, is another level, another devil. We can't stay in the same identity unless you, of course, you want to stay in the same identity. But if you still have big dreams and goals and aspirations and a North Star that you believe you're following, it's all about the growth, isn't it, along the journey? And that means a lot of internal shifts and changes. Yeah. And of course, I'm sure you're probably about to agree to me, change isn't easy. And a lot of the time we resist that, even if it leads to a more beautiful, successful path. Why do we do that? Why do we just stay where we are?
So again, it's really interesting. So I've a really strong belief. A lot of people talk about self-sabotage, and no doubt you do with your clients. And if what I'm about to say conflicts with some of the stuff that you say, then we can have a really healthy debate. But I don't believe in self-sabotage. Self-sabotage doesn't exist. People go, I self-sabotage all the time. No, you don't. And they go, well, yeah, I do, because I really want X, Y, and Z, but I do A, B, and C, and I'm self-sabotaging. No, you're protecting yourself. They look at me with this weird expression like, well, what on earth are you talking about? I say, I'm telling you, you're protecting yourself. So a great example of this is a client of mine come to me. I've known her for years, about 6 months ago, and said, well, I want to grow my business past this level, but I keep self-sabotaging. I went, okay, that's interesting. So talk to me about what actually happens every time you try to grow. Well, actually, that's a lie. Sorry. The first thing we spoke about, what is the thing you want most? And she really wanted freedom. So a lot of people, they go into business because they want freedom, time freedom, financial freedom, emotional freedom. They just want to have freedom. And what happens? I really want freedom. Okay, cool. So you're optimizing your life for freedom. Now, what happens every time you try and grow? Well, we try and grow, and then we the systems break down, and everything comes back on my table, and I end up working 15-hour days, and I go, okay, cool. So you've just told me what's really happening. The reason you're not growing is because when you try and grow, everything comes back on your lap. And what you want is freedom. So you're not sabotaging yourself. You're actually protecting yourself by not growing because you haven't got, you're getting all this stuff that's ending up on your thing, which means you're having to work the 15-hour days rather than the 6-hour days you want to be working or whatever. So that's where we need to fix that. That's really what needs to be fixed, because if we can find a way that you can grow without all of that happening, which was essentially just restructuring, then you're not going to have any of those problems. And that was a moment where she was like, now I get it. Now I get it.
And that's why people then invest some money in having a coach that can help them, because sometimes we can't see where the problems are. We know we've got problems, but we can't see our way out of them, I should say. And so when you have a business coach or a well-being mentor or whatever type of coach, it's that person that has potentially been there and done it and learned how, or has at least access to the knowledge and the people and the communities that can help you with that. I'm here. I don't really know what to do to get unstuck. I want to go to the next level, and that's where I need that help. And I guess that's where coaches and mentors come in, isn't it?
Exactly that. And look, you and I met, so you know your stuff. You're amazing at what you do. I know my stuff, and we met because we're both part of a particular. We both work with the same coach, right? And you can't see the whole picture when you're in the frame. I know my stuff. You know your stuff. You can help people all day long. You do an amazing job of helping people in the way that you do, but you still need that support. And generally speaking, I find that a great nobody ever really wants, this is kind of how I look at it. Nobody ever wants a coach, and nobody ever wants coaching. What they want is the result. And the reason I choose to work with a particular coach is because I believe that coach is going to get me the result in the quickest, most efficient and effective time. And when I'm looking at a coach, I look at it in reverse order. So of the four things, the fourth most important thing is their qualifications. What's more important than their qualifications is their experience. What beats their experience is if they've done it themselves. But what I care more about than if they've done it themselves is if they've done it with other people. So you've helped dozens of dance business owners to be able to go from being sort of stuck doing all of the teaching, doing all the admin, doing it to then actually being able to have a self-sustaining business that's growing and thriving without them having to do all of the do. And this is where I think that when we really drill into that and we realize that's the case, then we go, right, well, I want the result. And what typically are the components of getting the best result are three things. One is great content, do this, like follow the roadmap, the playbook. Then there's the community element. So you're around other like-minded people, you're sharing wins. I'm a huge believer that champagne is a blend of different grapes. You're getting all those different ideas. And then there's the coaching component. And that coaching is people asking you questions and pulling out ideas. It's people holding your feet to the fire. It's people challenging you and pulling you on stuff that maybe nobody else does pull you on, because maybe your staff aren't going to pull you on it. Your partner might not be pulling you on it at home. So if they don't do it, then who will? And it's a blend of those different three things that I know that you do a tremendous job at helping people with. So that's how I see it.
And, as you're doing that, I'm thinking, oh, can I tick this box? Do I do this? And I think I do all those three things. So I'm quite proud of myself.
You do.
Of course, you do as well in your community. And that's why you've had the success that you've had, Will. So what's on your what's coming up? I mean, you've shared some huge goals and things that you are going to achieve. But what's coming up more in the short term? Like, what does the next year look like for you?
Great question. So my business was like a business of two halves because of COVID, like lots of people. So pre-COVID, we used to run about 80 events a year all over the UK in different cities, Newcastle, Leeds, Sheffield, Manchester, all over. COVID hit, we took everything online. Gradually, I've been keeping online components and taking certain bits offline and running different things. We're actually really doubling down on a particular sort of demographic, if you like, of our clients right now. And we're also rolling something out, which this will be the first time I've actually said it publicly anywhere. So this is a world exclusive. So we're repositioning some stuff to Evolution Institute. So for years, my company was called Make It Happen. We rebranded it as Will Polston Coaching and Training, and now we're going to be sort of rebranding again to Evolution Institute. And the reason for that is I believe in people constantly evolving. You know, we're creating a hub, a community, whatever you want to call it, for personal development, for entrepreneurs that want to evolve, that brings in elements like life longevity, so people can learn how they can live to 150 years old, and things like dealing with addiction, you know, like these some real quite extreme topics that affect a lot of entrepreneurs and real driven people, but having that in one place that can really help them get results. So that's something that we're in the process of rolling out over the next year or so, but also something I'm really excited to do again in sort of today's world where so much is online. You know, we've connected online, we've never actually even met in person yet. But I want to build a new facility, like a HQ here in Essex, where we can bring our clients, and it can be like a second home for them, if they like, when it comes to it. So that's happening as well, which is quite cool.
That's all incredibly exciting. And thank you for sharing that world exclusive announcement with us. And this is something I did actually just under a year ago. We took on a premises, so we have our headquarters now, and we've got a beautiful VIP room where all our clients come, and when they have a day in person with me, I highly recommend. It's really great to have that kind of hub where people can kind of come and visit and hang out with you. And so that's very, very exciting. Big plans for next year as well as long term. If you were to give somebody some advice, if we've got some listeners listening right now and they're feeling kind of motivated by this, there's a few things, internal things starting to kind of shift. They're starting to ask themselves questions maybe, but they do still feel like they're in this very stuck moment. What's the one piece of advice that somebody could take today, right now, that's really practical that they could do to help them feel less stuck in their life?
Yeah, great question. I'm a big believer in the power of questions. I believe that any problem in life or business is simply an unasked or unanswered question. And I would get them to grab a pen and paper, write down what is it that they really want, sort of personally, professionally, financially, identify what that is, and then identify what do they know, and this is the key word, know. What do they know they've been doing or not been doing that's prevented them from achieving that? And being really honest with themselves. You know, they might sit there with a blank paper for a little while, but they're not allowed to get up. They can't look at their phone until they've started to write down some answers, and just get clear on that, because the majority of the time, this identifying the problem is a huge step forward in being able to get the solution. So actually know, because once you've got clear on, well, actually, I know I haven't been doing this, I haven't been doing this, or I have been doing this, and I have been doing this, and I have been doing this, and then ask themselves, what's that cost them in the past? How's it affect them now? And what's going to happen in the future if they carry on doing it? Because what that does is it starts to create a bit of pain, right? And it, by them getting clear on that, they can start to see, well, do you know what? If I don't change, that future is not going to be nice. Like, it's really not going to be good. And it creates enough pain to go, do you know what? I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to reach out to Deb and have a conversation about how I can solve this specific problem. So they get clear on the problem, because then they go, no, right, well, who's the best? And then after that is, who's the best person that I know that can help me with that, or that I know that would know someone that could help me with that? And yeah, that's where the power. Any problem is an unasked or unanswered question. So if we ask the right question to the right person, problem solved.
Love that. I love that. And the first question has to come from yourself. You got to ask us these questions. Yeah, lovely. Yeah. We could talk literally. Well, I could anyway. I'm sure you've got lots of things to do. I could carry on talking on this all day, because I feel like this is the key for the padlock that could be holding you back in your life. And when you start to really unlock these things, you're unlocking the potential in yourself as well. And so I really hope for anyone that's listening to this that this conversation today might have been a little key for your padlock, at least, if nothing else, to start asking yourself questions. And then, like Will has just said, who else can I ask these questions of? And I think it's coming to that decision, isn't it, Will, that, I don't know, maybe enough is enough, or I'm ready for change. I'm ready to embrace that. But with that, I feel comes a sense of bravery. Like, how do we find that bravery to then start doing something about this? Because it's quite comfy staying where we are, even if it's painful, isn't it?
It's the known. I mean, you mentioned earlier, new levels bring new devils, and for a lot of people, it's the unknown of, oh well, what if this and what if that, and that's exactly the question to ask. Well, what if it works, rather than what if it doesn't work? Well, what if it does work? What difference does that make? And there's a huge difference as well. And this is what I mean about, I'm just obsessed with anything to do with human awareness, human potential, human behavior. The deeper and deeper I go, the more nuanced things become. And one of the big things that people go is, well, what if it doesn't work? And I go, great. Well, let's take that from a nuanced perspective and go, well, let's look at the distinction between probability and possibility. Is there a possibility it could go wrong? Yeah, there is. But what's the probability of that happening? And sometimes even just asking that question, we can go, oh, do you know what? It's like, is there a possibility you or I could walk outside today and get struck down by a plane crashing? Yeah, there's a possibility of it, but the probability is really small. Is there a possibility we're going to drive to the shops and someone's going to crash into us? Yeah, there's a possibility, but the probability is really small. So once we understand that there's a possibility of something, but the probability is small, or even if the possibility is large, well, what do we need to do to reduce the probability of that happening? So in coaching, one of the great, amazing things about coaching is coaching can collapse decades into days in some instances. Something that you've spent decades learning, Deb, that then someone can just learn in the space of a week and implement, and they haven't got to go through the pain or the cost, or it's a time collapser. And that's where I think it becomes super, super powerful. And that's kind of how I see it.
And I love that, because for anyone that's listening that's ever thought, oh, maybe Deborah can help me, and then you've checked out the memberships and you've looked at pricing and you're like, oh, I haven't got that money. That's the whole reason I need help. It is that, is there a possibility that you might invest an amount of money and it doesn't work? Yes. But what is the probability it won't work? Well, looking at all the clients that are in the membership that are raving on a daily basis about their successes and the number that we have and the number of people that come to our conference, they wouldn't be there. And the same with your clients. They wouldn't be there. You wouldn't have a strong, successful business if something didn't work. So the probability is, yes, it probably will work. Is it possible that it won't? Well, yes, if you don't do any of the work. Which is what I say to all my clients. If you don't do the work, it's not going to happen. But, do you need the resources and the help and the support? Yes, So that's a great signpost, actually. Short segue there into why they're...
I was going to sort of add to that as well, in that, I know you've worked with so many people and helped them get the result. And it comes back to that thing that I said about the 4 elements. The most important thing, the thing I'm most interested in is how many results have they got for others? Because today I've worked with about 2,000 entrepreneurs and business owners and other people, ambitious professionals and whatnot. And I can tell you now that the problems are the same. It's the same patterns. So that person might be completely unique and very different to the other person, but there's only a few dozen challenges that come up. And once you know how to solve it for one person, and it's worked for 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 people, then it's just a case of, right, this is what we need to do. And that's the thing that makes the big difference for a lot of people, is that, I see it all the time. I can pinpoint exactly where you're going wrong. You're not doing this component. If you change this, everything changes. And that's the beauty of it. I think of it like 100-meter hurdle race. We know once we got clear on the finish line, we've got the hurdles in the way. Well, the way that we can run that 100-meter hurdle race is by making the hurdles go away or making them shorter. And that's what a great coach has the ability to do. You may not need to have a completely clear track to start, but you run those first 9 meters, and when you get within a meter, the coach is going to pull the hurdle away so you can keep running and run to the next one, or make the next one shorter so that you can run that race faster and faster and get to that finish line.
I love that analogy. And, I literally, before joining you, came off the back of a call with a client that was having struggles. And like you said, she potentially thinks that they're unique struggles to her, but actually I hear them on a daily basis. And she had that, vision. She's got all those hurdles to jump over, and she was feeling stuck. So we talked about a whole bunch of things. Straight away, I can identify where the problem is. You talked about someone that can find the missing piece, because actually everyone has the same problems, the same hurdles. And then I let her talk, and we discussed the things that were going on. And I said, so you've got this problem, but you're not doing any marketing. Oh, well, I do this, that, and that. But you're not really doing any marketing. And we talked about the marketing piece, and she's like, yeah, you're right. There was much more to the conversation than this, but it all boiled down to the fact that she wasn't doing X in her business, and it was having all these other results. And she went away with a lovely kind of realization that that's where the focus needed to be, and that would solve all the problems. And it was just that sometimes as well, don't you? You know where the problems are, but you need someone else to shine the torchlight on it for you and say, you're right, that is the problem. Now, what are we going to do about that? That's what a coach can do.
100%. And you know what? It's funny. So the group that I mentioned that you and I met through, I was on a call this morning, and in my opinion, I had been so people talk about niching, right? They're going to niche, and I thought that I had been niche down enough, and they just called me on it and said, nope, that's not niche enough because of XYZ. And I was like, yeah, now I can see. And it also helped me connect the dots by just adding another couple of words in. Now I can see how it's going to work better and who it's going to work for. And it's just some of those tiny little things, but it comes back to you can't, and I could have spent weeks and a whole bunch of cash and time and all the rest of it to get to that point. But one person going, nope, I can see it's this, change that one bit, great. And it's a bit like a plumber, isn't it? Sometimes you get a plumber around and they charge you a fortune, and they've been there 2 minutes, and you go, what? How can I pay you that much money? You were here for 2 minutes. But it's not about the time. It's the fact that they turned that one screw, but it's their decades of experience of knowing what screw to turn and how tight to turn it that means that they can do it so quickly.
Yeah, and you'd spent ages with leaky pipes and had no idea how to solve the problem. I love that, and I love that analogy. It's such a great story, that one. Will, thank you so much. It's been really delightful. I love to finish my podcast with a few quick fire questions at the end. So if you're up for that, are you ready to see what comes out of your head?
I'm absolutely happy to. What I was just going to say is that, because obviously, I know you love the personal development side of things. If people are interested, I have got a book that's really generic, a lot of the stuff. So if people want to find out about that, it's North Star Thinking, Master Your Mindset and Live a Life You Love. And if people want to get access to that, there's a bunch of the stuff that we've been talking about that's relevant for anyone. And if that's of interest, then a lot of the stuff we've been talking about, we go much deeper in the book, but it's all there.
Fabulous. And I was going to ask you at the very end, so thank you for reminding me, because sometimes I forget, but we'll also put some links to your social media or to your book into our show notes as well, so people can go and find you. Okay, let's go for that then. So, favorite pastime?
Chilling, watching Netflix at the moment, I would say it is, yeah.
Favorite Netflix program?
At the moment, it's Victoria. Like, if anyone loved The Crown, I love The Crown. Victoria is like, rather than it being about Queen Elizabeth, it's about Queen Victoria. I just find it fascinating. So I'm all in on that at the moment. I'm loving it.
Is it a new series? Because I've already watched the ones that were available.
I don't know if it's a new series. I just never seen it before, and it popped up the other day, so I started watching it. So yeah.
Brilliant. What is your favorite business book? Apart from your own, of course.
Ooh, okay. Business book. I would actually say The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham.
Amazing. We'll go and check that one out. Favorite ice cream?
Mint choc chip.
What is left on your bucket list to do in your life? And I think you might have already answered this earlier on in the podcast.
Yeah, go to space is one of them.
And what's on your bucket list this year that's big?
Do you know what? I actually keep it in my notes, and this may be a useful little exercise for people. Just an aside, so I keep a bucket list of things I want to do, but I actually also keep a bucket list of things that I've done. So sometimes we forget all the things that we've done. So I do that, and then each year I pick off 5 things that I'm going to do each year, my ones this year that I've not finished yet, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it done now, was complete my private pilot's license. So I'm 70 hours into doing my private pilot's license. I should have been completed by now, but I'm having too many gaps between, and I'm within touching distance of getting it done, but I just don't know if I'm going to get it over the line in the next 2 months now with other commitments. So yeah, that's one of mine.
Amazing. I love that. What's the intention once you've got that?
To just use it for fun. Use it for fun, use it a little bit for work, to travel. Like yesterday I popped up to Manchester. If I would have flown there if I'd have had my license already. But yeah, I just love the idea of having the freedom. You and I, we were going to pop to France a couple of weeks ago, but I was out of the country and I would have flown to France. So yeah, just to be able to use it to have a cool way of being able to commute and have some fun experiences.
I love that. I might stick that on mine, actually. I quite like the idea of being able to just jump in my plane and appear somewhere else in a few hours. Last couple of questions. If you could hang out with somebody from history that's no longer here for 15 minutes, who would that be?
Can I pick 3, or has it got to be 1?
Oh, you're pushing it now. Look, we've only just met, Will. Go on. This relationship already. Yeah, go on. You can have 3.
For me, it would be Socrates. It would be Nikola Tesla, and it would be Jim Rohn.
Amazing. Love those. I love all 3. And if you could hang out with someone today that's still with us for 15 minutes, who would it be?
Right now, I'd probably actually say Elon Musk.
There's actually too many to choose from, isn't it? I think that's why you've got so many.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of people that come to mind. I'm thinking, well, in 15 minutes, would I want to? Yeah, that would probably be the person that comes to mind. So I
feel like you need to put that on your bucket list. I reckon you're the kind of guy that could make that happen.
Well, I don't know how we are for time, but if I could share a really interesting story, because you spoke about visualization and seeing things. So I had a situation. So in 2017, I'll never forget this. It was a Friday morning, and I don't dream, Deborah. I don't know about you, but I don't really dream. Well, I know we all dream, but I don't remember them, whatever. And this morning I woke up and I had the most vivid dream of meeting Tony Robbins in a hotel. Like, it was so clear. And I got on this call in the February, and I said to this woman, so if people that listen to this aren't familiar with Tony Robbins, he's arguably sort of the number one sort of life and business strategist in the world. And he, I said to this woman that was on the call with at 10 o'clock on the phone, I said, I've got to tell you this, because if this ever happens, nobody will ever believe me. I dreamt about it 6 months ago. Fast forward literally 6 months later, there I was at a hotel in Las Vegas talking with Tony Robbins. It was so clear in this dream that I had, but it comes back to visualization. And I think sometimes if we get really, really clear on it, we don't worry about the how too much, we get really clear on what we want, how we want it, some amazing things can happen. And that was just one example, but it gave me the opportunity. So prior to that, I would have always said that would have been the person I wanted to speak to and spend time with, but I was able to do it. So,
you know, when you were trying to think of someone, I was like, he's going to say Tony Robbins. He's going to say Tony Robbins. And then you didn't. But now I know the reason that you didn't. Because you've
So I don't know, for anyone that's watching this, I don't know if you can see that there.
Oh, amazing.
That's a photo that I keep on my desk of Tony and I. That was actually so it was.
Well, my person that I would love to spend 15 minutes more than anyone else on the planet right now is Oprah Winfrey. So I'm going to start going away and visualizing that that's going to happen, because I feel like she's probably the most impossible person to ever think that you could do that with, but it can happen. We can do incredible things, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. For sure.
Thank you so much, Will. It's been just the most amazing interview. I've loved every second. I'm sure my listeners have too. Go and find Will. Go buy his book. Go find him on socials. Really fab guy to be following. And I hope that today has helped you a little bit. Thanks so much, Will.
Thank you so much for having me.
I wanted to tell you that this episode is kindly sponsored by Sally at Dance Studio Marketing, who is your go-to solution for growing your dance school through the power of social media. So if you're feeling overwhelmed at trying to attract new students, at Dance Studio Marketing, Sally helps dance studio owners just like you to leverage the power of social media and paid ads to bring in a steady stream of students, which of course helps you to achieve more balance in your life. So if you're ready to grow with less stress, visit sallyprendergast.com, or you can connect with Sally at Dance Studio Marketing on your favorite social media platform today. My clients are getting fabulous results using Sally. So let's get those ads going and let's get your school growing. Hello and welcome, lovelies, to the Ultimate Dance Business Podcast. My name is Deborah Laws, the dance business expert. My passion is to help you turn your passion into profit while guiding you to work less and earn more. I'm super excited to share interviews with you that I know will inspire and motivate you in your schools, as well as my solo shows where I shall be sharing some great tips and strategies. So if you love the show, please do remember to review, subscribe, and share it with your fellow dance boss friends. So let's get stuck into the business of dance.